Yes, welcome to the No State Project here on my YouTube channel, No State Project. Glad to be with you here live from the fortified compound in Mesa, Arizona. It is episode 82 of the big broadcast over there, so that's great. We got more than 12,000 subs now, so appreciate that too. Appreciate everyone tuning in today. Hope we can get some good dialogue. Well, I know we're going to get at least some good dialogue here tonight, because Eyal, good friend from No State Project Israel, who was actually the one responsible for showing me my inconsistencies on a live broadcast, and that's when I became went to be more consistent and went full vegan, and have been advocating it ever since. Hey, if you have an ethical argument in favor of government, I'd like to hear that. If you have an ethical argument for eating meat, I'd like to hear that too, if you've got it. But just a quick, a couple of things before we get started here. If someone is going to court, at least have somebody know, that you know, or a friend that if they go with you or they hear about you going to jail, please have them contact me and let me know so that we can at least get a habeas corpus petition in. Me or somebody else can get that done. If we're completely left in the dark, somebody can do days or months or weeks in jail, and we can't even try to do a habeas corpus or do something to get you out. So have some form of someone that you can communicate with me so that we know what's going on and we can help out in, with at least a habeas corpus petition. Another thing that's come up, very important, when we file documents in court, there are usually, depending on, there's a general set times to respond that people that have. So if a motion is filed, let's say there's 21 days for the prosecution to respond, and then once the prosecution responds, they give like 14 or 15 days to respond to the prosecutors. You don't ever have to, if the prosecutor files a motion against you, there's no reason for you to file a motion to continue. So because if you file a motion to continue or to delay or continue, however if you are filing to get a delay in court and it's a criminal proceeding, you are waiving your right to a speedy trial. Now, then they're not going to necessarily tell you that. Why would they? Some do, some don't. But the fact remains, if you get a delay in a criminal proceeding, you are waiving speedy trial rights. So if it's 180 days and you do that, and if you do, then it's gone. Goodbye. Same thing goes if you file, let's say you file a motion to change the judge and they deny that, okay? You then have grounds to go into the higher court, the appellate court, on a petition for a writ of mandamus or mandate, if you're in California, to review the denial of the motion to change judge. You are, in effect, also waiving your right to a speedy trial, because you can't turn around and file the special action, get a stay of proceedings, ultimately lose, have the appellate court send it back, and then turn around and say, you had 180 days, you blew it, 585 days, you blow it, you had a chance and you blew it. It's not the way it works, so I don't want to see that. Hopefully we don't have to see that. We will have the role-playing tomorrow, provided enough people contact me at FrankRizzle3 on Skype to be able to justify doing that. If there's one person, I can't justify doing that, because then we just have to set up a consult, because I have to spend the time actually trying to keep a roof over my head, which it's not looking too good lately. But all right, so yeah, we're gonna talk. I'm gonna bring Eyal up here. I do want to make a point. We're gonna be discussing the latest video from Larken Rose, and I've had Larken on the show before, and I have extended him an invitation. He has not responded in a few days to the invitation. He may respond to Facebook posts, but he's not responding yet as of this broadcast. He has not responded yet to a request to come on the show. So just like I mentioned earlier, Larken argues pretty good. Let's say he's good at arguing anarchism. I think he's very broad in some of his arguments and doesn't get very specific enough. But he's generally a decent, makes decent arguments for anarchy. he's dreadful when it comes to and again, and with anarchy, he does argue ethics and morals, and if you straw man or you do some kind of bad argument, he'll call you out on it most of the time. But when it comes to a rational argument for his position that it's ethical to kill animals that pose no threat to you and are not necessary for your health, he'll say it's ethical all day long, but he won't actually put forth an ethical argument for that. So while he's very insistent that minarchists or statists or Republicans, Democrats present logical, rational arguments that are, not so much when he is asked to present a logical, rational argument defending his position that is actually ethical, moral, to kill an animal that poses no threat to you. And I do want to point, most of what he does in the video is very, very cringy. He's just ranting about people on Facebook, which some of the things I agree with him on there. But he titled the video "Vegan Dishonesty," and it's not vegan dishonesty. It's just like trying to say that an anarchist that says something dishonest on Facebook and titling the video "Anarchist Dishonesty." Not putting the anarchist in there really isn't, unless you just have an axe to grind with anarchists, not necessary to be in there, because most of what he's doing in the video are not vegan ethical positions. So I'll say that. So it's a very difficult watch. If you are an anti-vegan, you enjoy people pissing on vegans for some of the stupid things they may say on Facebook, you'll probably love the video. I, on the other hand, really didn't get anything out of it. Nothing productive, I thought, was done whatsoever. So anyway, he's been on the show before. Welcome back, Eyal.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
It's good to talk with you again. It's been a while.
Yeah. So, no, it's not the first time Larken Rose is posting something about veganism. He posted a few months ago or so something like vegans, what's your end game? And he raised similar arguments back then on Facebook. And I was happy this time that he got a lot of comments on the video, that people push back on what he's saying. Now, I watched the video and today, and I just wrote down a list of arguments that he's making, and I tried to refute each one of them. And it wasn't that difficult, but it's a fun challenge. So I would like to go over with you about the argument that is raising there, and just let's see what's the value of these arguments. Shall we?
Yeah. I give you credit for that, because I probably should have written that down and as I watched the video, or maybe paused to write stuff down. But I found almost no value whatsoever. I mean, I've gone on and done on the show talking about how you can't have a rational discussion on Facebook. I've done that myself, and I don't think I would want to put my audience through a 28-minute video of me just ranting about stupid things that people have said to me on Facebook, and then trying to and then debunk, because most of that stuff doesn't require to being debunked.
Yeah, but I gotta correct you. He's not raising arguments. He's not raising bad arguments and claiming that these are the arguments by vegans. He's raising some bad arguments, and he's correct. They are bad arguments, but most of his arguments are just he's wrong. His conclusion is wrong. For example, when it's criticizing the idea that meat is murder, he says meat is not murder because it's just meat. It's a noun. It's not a verb. And is clinging on to semantics and not really understanding what people mean by saying meat is murder. They don't mean the actual corpse of the animal is eating it is murder. They mean, when you buy meat, you pay for someone to commit murder. So I found this was his first argument, and it was quite silly, I think.
I gotta agree with you there. That and some people accuse it of being a semantical thing, but yeah, saying that the corpse, he does this, it's the same thing where he tries to say that there's no I'm sorry, I don't want to jump ahead, but yeah, that is it is kind of a silly thing for him to actually address. And that's a common thing, not just for Larken, for anybody who really doesn't have a rational counter argument against your core position. You just make something up, or you just misstate. So he is one of the straw man warriors. He will, if you make something that's even resembling a straw man, he will hammer away. So if you look at a lot of his posts, that's one of his go-to claims, is that you're just making a straw man. And he does it in the very first.
This is a clear straw man argument. You say as if we mean like the meat eating, like you found a roadkill and you eat it. It's murder. No one is making that claim. It's stupid.
That's true.
Now, the second thing is saying that, look up the dictionary. It says that murder applies only for humans. So you're gonna cling to the dictionary. But, I find it very hypocritical to cling to the dictionary about murder. Why not cling to the dictionary about killing and about dead? Why does the word kill apply to animals and the word dead and death apply to animals? And what's the difference between to kill and to murder? Well, the difference is the lack of good reason. So, I can kill or cause death to a person by accident, but I cannot murder a person in an accident. So it's the lack of good reason to kill that makes something a murder. So I don't see why it's not relevant to animals, why it's limited only to humans too. In this world.
And the intention and why the act is done, whether it's aggressive or whether it's self-defense, is an objective standard to apply to a judgment on whether it was a right or wrong thing. And I want to point out that Larken would probably, I'm sure he would agree here, that if he was arguing with the statist, and the statist went to the dictionary definition of anarchy. Well, sir, you're an anarchist. You say you're an anarchist, and the definition of anarchist is is chaos. Anarchy is chaos.
Moral is the rules of the government.
It is kind of disingenuous to piss on the definition of anarchy because you don't agree with the definition of anarchy in the current dictionaries. But when someone says meat is murder because you're taking a life with no justifiable reason whatsoever, all of a sudden we can't use that word. So I would say if Larken or anyone else is an anarchist and doesn't like somebody using the dictionary definition of anarchy or anarchist, then you can't turn around and say, when someone says meat is murder, you can't say, well, the dictionary says this. You don't get to do, that's a double standard.
I mean, even if you do, it doesn't make any sense because there's a clearly different word for humans between there's killing and then there's murder. Different words. So why do you use kill for animals? Why don't you come up with, okay, not murder, but I don't know, invent a new word that means causing death, killing with no good reason, but it only applies to animals. Okay, come up with an equivalent word for animals, but you can't just use kill because it implies that there is a good reason.
Yeah. This is similar to where people take umbrage and they don't like that people like us will refer to what is happening to 1 billion plus animals a year as a Holocaust. Now, I don't, now
150 billion.
Oh, gee. So now, people who the only time I've seen someone say that that's offensive is somebody who is not even Jewish. Not that that should really enter into it, but veganism is getting gaining a lot of popularity in Israel. And now you live in Israel, and I don't know if you're a secular Jew, but is the use of the word Holocaust? Do you think that is incorrect?
Well, I don't define myself as Jew because I'm an atheist and I just don't see Judaism more than a religion. But no, I don't take ownership of the concept of Holocaust or the events or something. So I have no special feelings about it or a unique monopoly on the term.
Yeah.
But about Israel, about veganism being strong in Israel, something that I heard today in lunch from someone is that a new survey was made, and 1 in 12 in every 12 soldiers in the army today in Israel is vegan. And I said, no, it can't be. 1 in 12 is too much. There are not so many vegans in the population. Well, maybe 2%, maybe 2.5%, 3% vegans. But then it came to me that it's mostly the young people. It's mostly kids and young people. So it is possible. It is possible that we're talking about 1 in 12.
That's pretty good. It's on the rise because the dairy industry is definitely in decline and needs. Wow, they at least in the U.S. they've been looking for more subsidies because it's tanking while soy milk and whatnot and almond milk, cashew milk, that is increasing. So you can definitely see the demand for dairy is going down, which is great. But let's get back, because I don't have as much time today. Let's get back to I want to focus again on what the bad arguments that you've
so,
made.
So just to sum up the idea of meat is not murder and then the dictionary definitions. So why not take the word torture and the word abuse and limit them to humans also, and then we just cured the world of animal torture and abuse? It's wow, magic, no? I mean, you can solve animal abuse and torture in a second. We just define torture and abuse only for humans.
Enhanced, and it's not even torture; it's enhanced interrogation. And that's a statist thing to do. Just keep equivocating or changing the meaning of the word so that it means whatever you want to fit your narrative instead of using words the way they're supposed to be used. Okay, so I know he really starts getting into it after he does that ridiculous thing.
Yeah. So the next thing he talks about is carnism. He says that carnism is a religion, and no, he says that the vegans claim that carnism and carnism is eating animals is a religion. Well, carnism is a theory that not all vegans promote. So first of all, and this is the point where it says vegans are dishonest. Well, not all vegans are promoting the theory of carnism. For example, Gary Francione he's very anti the theory of carnism and explains the theory. Basically, the theory says that the people who eat animal meat and secretions, they do it because they are unconsciously hold the animals to be less than humans. So in a way, they're not responsible for their actions. So basically, carnism is the idea that people who eat meat and animal secretions are not responsible for their actions because it's unconscious and defense mechanisms. So not all vegans believe in the theory of carnism.
But do they even say that carnism is a religion? I've never seen that. I know where people like Larken Rose, not necessarily.
No, it brings up vegans. Some vegans who support this theory, they say that carnism is a religion.
I've not seen it. I've seen where people like Larken, who are are not vegans, where they'll say that veganism is a cult and veganism is a religion. Well,
he didn't go as far as saying it's a religion, but he said that veganism is an ism, a belief system. And that's just not true, because just like voluntarism, it isn't a belief system. It's not based on beliefs or on faith. It's based on objective, empirical, rational, moral philosophy, and on compassion and on empathy. So it's not a belief system. There is wrong.
Okay. Well, I just in a broad sense. So there's the carnism, and again, that's a very small number. It's not a core vegan ethic.
Yeah. He says that people tell him, that vegan anarchists tell him that he's not really an anarchist, and he says, well, anarchism is about government. Yeah, right, yeah. But they can say you're not really a voluntarist, and then it's going to be harder for him to explain why he is a voluntarist, besides when it comes to animals. And then we're getting into the non-aggression principle applying to animals, and he brings up the coyote and the mouse and says, well, the coyote is immoral for chasing the mouse. And I think that the correct, and he says, no, it can't be. The coyote can't be immoral for chasing the mouse. Therefore, the NAP doesn't apply to animals. And I say, no, the correct answer is yes. The coyote is immoral for chasing the mouse. But what can you do? It's a sad, dire situation. And that's just the way it is.
Well, I wouldn't say it's unethical or immoral, because one, they can't rationalize ethics, and a coyote is actually a carnivore and has to sustain their life. A carnivore has to eat meat. So I would.
Yeah, it's still an immoral action. It's not that the coyote is immoral. The action is immoral. I would equate it to someone in a moving car. The car lost the brakes, and you're going to run over someone. It's immoral to run over someone, but you have no control about it. You have no other option. So.
Well, but you're not making it. This is something that Larken refuses to do, and a lot of the people that pigpile with him on vegans, there is a moral distinction between an intentional act and an unintentional act. So the coyote, it's his nature. He has to do that to survive. It's an intentional act, whereas, in a car having an accident, it's not an intentional act. So they're really not. It's kind of apples and oranges there. But I don't see a problem that with a coyote and what animals are doing, saying that that's not an issue of morality there. I have a problem when he tries to paint everybody in the same light, and he makes definitive statements that no one believes that. That's later in the video where he says that you don't even believe XYZ. And I think he's really disingenuous there. And I get his anger at being, having people, on Facebook. That's why I generally don't use Facebook. But it's such a gross generalization to say none of these people who may say, and I raise an argument that I don't agree with, that none of them actually believe it. Because the idea that you have to be 100% consistent or you don't believe is bull. Because there's no way that we're all 100% consistent anarchists. We're not. And by Larkin's generalization, if you're not 100% consistent, you don't believe it. And so I think, again, he's disingenuous or just at best, and he's wrong, dead wrong, by raising such a ridiculous generalization. And it's quite frankly, it's an assumption that he has no factual basis, regardless of how angry he gets on the video. Saying people don't believe it because they're not 100% consistent that's not going to cut it.
That's something that I didn't pick up about not really believing it. However, the issue with bringing up lions and coyotes, here's the thing. There are only a few tens of thousands of lions left in the world. And coyotes, there are about 5 million. Now, if you're going to shift the conversation to coyotes and lions, when there are 7.5 billion humans, so it's like 1,500 times more. So it's just 0.06% of the problem. It doesn't make sense that we're going to shift the conversation to 0.06% of the problem when humans are 99.94% of the problem.
Right. Okay. Let's get
to the next.
Let's get to the next point, because I kind of jumped ahead a little bit by bringing up something.
The next point would be that he's saying that it's a one-way directional statement about how people should treat animals. And that's just not true. It's just like humans, no human or animal should attack another human or animal. So it's two-way directional statement. Now, animals maybe don't understand language and abstract ideas, but they live these ideas in many cases. They're somehow naturally programmed to live morally, and there are countless examples to bring as evidence that they somehow live this concept of morality without really being able to express it in words. Now, anyway, the most important thing is that cows and pigs and chickens, they do not pose a threat to us. So it's completely irrelevant to the conversation. Whether it's a one-way directional statement, how people should treat animals. Well, animals treat us like this already. So, treat chickens, cows, pigs, and fish like they treat you. I see a two-way street here.
Okay, I don't even remember that one. What's the next point he made that you addressed?
Well, it was talking about whether you have the right to save he says, well, if morality applies to animals, then you have the right to save the mouse from the coyote. And to him, it just sounds irrational, insane. And to me, it sounds, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, you have the right to save the prey from the predator. Yeah, you have the right to do it. I mean, are we going to really talk about lions and gazelles and coyotes and mouse right now, or we're going to keep the conversation on 7.5 billion people and 150 billion animals every year that are being murdered in this industry? I think it should be the first thing we talk about. What's the next point? It says vegans say they respect all life, but they rather run over a dog than an ant. And this is really good. This is really good point that he's bringing up because he's correct. Yeah. And it's a damn if you do, damn if you don't situation. That, yeah, I mean, you're about to run either a dog or an ant, you're going to run over the ant. And the fact that some beings are you value them more, you care about them more, doesn't disprove the idea that morality applies to all of them.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous situation because it's an ethical dilemma. So if you have a choice not to hit the dog and you have a choice to hit the dog, hitting the dog is wrong. So putting the ant in, yeah, it is such a stupid argument that Larken's making. It's like he's a desperate Republican or Democrat clinging to the last vestige of the Constitution and his concept of states and citizens and whatnot. He would never accept that kind of trash argument from a statist, and yet he puts forth the same kind of stupid argument. There is a difference, and this is something he gets wildly wrong. Vegans do understand moral value, and so I think it's a vegan ethic that humans have the highest moral value. Then there's animals, and then of course there's the insects. Okay, so there's definitely different moral values, and just like any anarchist, a vegan will say, well, you've got two people, okay, who has more moral value? The aggressor or the one who's trying to defend himself? No one in their right mind is going to say that there's more moral value or equal moral value in a situation like that. And there's no possible way that Larken would disagree. He would be the first one saying the aggressor has less moral value. So to turn around and use such a stupid argument or analogy that, well, you are disingenuous in your belief because you'll just as happily run over that cockroach than hit the dog. No, that's stupid.
And you know what? If there's a cat and a dog, which will you choose? The cat or the dog? Maybe the cat is my cat, and I would rather hit the dog. I don't know if it's my cat or someone else's dog, or hell, if it's going to be my dog or Larken Rose. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's going to be a difficult decision.
Well, that's because it's your emotional. It's because you have more of an emotional attachment to your dog, and your dog probably isn't making stupid anti-vegan arguments on YouTube.
Yeah, at least she tried to go vegan.
That was just a joke, everybody.
Yeah,
but okay, yeah. So so
I'm going to skip a lot of things that he said about basically how we care more about different kind of animals. I'm probably going to do a separate dedicated video to slowly go over all these arguments there, and then just going to, if you don't mind, just jump to the last thing that I think it was really brilliant. It was really good that he said it. I wanted to bring it up right now in the conversation. And when I listened to the end of the video, he brought it up himself. It's the moral dilemma that they always bring up. I mean, you see a kid in your neighborhood and he's holding a crate, and in this crate there are puppies, dog puppies, and the kid is basically torturing them and killing them one by one. He has like 10 puppies in the crate. He pulls one out and he pulls his eyes out. He smashes his head on the concrete. He's torturing and killing the puppies one by one. Do you intervene? Do you use reasonable force, amount of force, and to intervene and just take the puppies away from the kid, or do you let the kid torture and kill the puppies because they are private property, like inanimate objects? If you're going to say, well, yeah, I'm going to intervene and take the puppies away from the kid, then you already agree that animals are not property, cannot be property of human beings, and morality applies to them, and you can torture them, and you can kill them for no good reason. So you already agree to that. So for Larken to be consistent, and he's admitting in the end of the video that he's not being consistent, the position where he draws the line of morality somewhere must be in a place that the non-aggression principle never applies to animals. For Larken to be consistent, he must say that the non-aggression principle never applies to animals. But he doesn't say it because it's not consistent, and it's good. I prefer him to be not consistent than a complete psychopath. So he's admitting morality can be enforced regarding the treatment of animals, and he says that it's subjective to which animals and what kind of treatment is subjective. But he doesn't say that never applies to animals. So it's good. I mean, there's some compassion to animals.
Well, he has compassion. He's just very inconsistent. He doesn't extend that compassion to what he considers food. So he to cover the, whatever disgust he would naturally have about, and to cover up the natural compassion he would have for animals, because he did go through out of his way to talk about a turtle that he helped to save. So, if he's to be consistent, he should have the same compassion towards all animals. And it just, what happens is people on the internet will just say that doesn't count because it's food. And I want to throw this out at you too, because dealing with someone like Larken, who may identify as an ANCAP, they don't see that animals have any purpose other than as property, and so they call them property, and they could do literally whatever they want. So I think an ANCAP would actually say, well, you can't protect those puppies from that child because it's the property of the child, and you're violating his property rights. And
I had people say this to me.
It's a very common ANCAP type of thing. ANCAPs think that property is the be-all, end-all. That's why you have these lunatics who say that it's actually morally justified to throw somebody out of a plane that you invited to come on, and then at any point in time you decide, I don't want you here anymore. Trespasser, throw them out of the plane. Again, that's not all ANCAPs.
Let's not paint this as an ANCAP argument.
No,
that's just
I know.
A bad argument.
I'm just saying that
I consider myself an ANCAP. I don't make this argument, so.
No, I know, but I'm just trying to say as a counter argument that somebody could say, and they have said, those puppies are not your property. So regardless of what is being done to them, you have no justification whatsoever to protect them.
Yeah, this is what happens when people just use the mind and not the heart, and they completely disconnect the heart, and they just rationalize and intellectualize everything without really, applying all the human capabilities that they have. You can't do philosophy without the heart. It just gets you to the wrong answers eventually. You ask the wrong questions and you get the wrong answers. Yeah. And that's what I think.
It's the same.
But here's the thing.
It's the same thing that where somebody recently, one of these Ayn Rand followers, that justify, like her, you can justify animal abuse and you can justify human genocide on the same principle, like they don't have any rights. The American natives they did not subscribe to the Western European superior concept of property. So therefore, because they didn't, they couldn't conceptualize property or accept our view of property, it was okay to wipe them out. That's the mindset. Yeah, there is a certain amount of, I have to cut out whatever is human in me to kind of go back and do that. That I'm so desperate for an ideology of property that I'm going to replace my worship of a space being or a god. I'm going to make my worship the concept of property, and absolutely nothing that gets in the way of that concept, I am not going to allow it to. I'm not going to allow it. That's the way I see it happening. Their God, what they're worshiping, what is infallible to them, is the concept of property, and they will not allow any argument. That's why Americans, a lot of them, are so absolutely against even discussing socialism, even when you can smack them upside the head and show that the United States has always been a mix, like every other country practically, of capitalism and socialism. But they're so conditioned, just like, I have to eat meat, or I won't feel good. I have to eat meat or I'll turn into a girl. They can't allow any contradictory facts and arguments.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I see. Larken it seems to be in that he will not even provide me, whether on Facebook or on the show, he won't provide me a counter argument. Now, he talks about logic and rational arguments all the time, and that's what you do when you're discussing principles of anarchy or veganism. If you have an argument for something, then present it. If your position is, Mark, your argument is wrong, then you're supposed to present a counter argument as to why I'm wrong and you're right. That's the way it's supposed to work. But he, like most people, are not able to nobody can give a rational argument against veganism, so that's why they don't do it.
But it was interesting to see that he did profess to being a moral subjectivist when it comes to animals, because he says he would protect dogs, or he would protect gorillas. That's what he says. Yeah, he would protect someone who wants to hunt a gorilla. Now, there are 10,000 gorillas in the world left today, and about 1.5 billion cats and dogs. Now, in the meat and dairy industry and animal exploit industry, we're talking about 100 times that 1.5 billion. We're talking about 150 billion animals every year. So Larken is focusing about, he draws the line. He says, like, I will save the gorillas. I will use violence against anyone who wants to harm a gorilla, but not a cow and a chicken. And eventually, the last thing he talks about, the idea of reducing the harm and factory farming versus humane meat and so on. And as an anarchist, you should understand that the reductionist approach never works. I mean, even if we can't abolish all the suffering and death, the reductionist approach, by 99, I would say that 99.99% of the people who promote the idea of reducing the suffering of animals, it leads to drawing the line in a very bad place. It never works, right? Just like you cannot fix the government, right? You cannot vote in compassionate and rational politicians who will elect who will put rational and compassionate police officers, because the position of power is corrupting, and corrupt people are drawn to that power of government. And just like that, it's the sadists and the psychopaths who are drawn to work in the animal exploit industry. I mean, no person with a healthy amount of and with a healthy capacity to empathy is going to work in a slaughterhouse, sure, just so we can make the last minute of a cow's life less frightening.
Yeah. Well, I got a line of calls I got to get to. I do appreciate it. I will point out that he vehemently attacks or rants about anarchists, vegan anarchists, or vegans, that he was addressing anyway, about drawing the line arbitrarily. He does the same damn thing. He draws the line between a turtle. He won't kill and eat a turtle that he finds. He'll protect that, but he has got no problem with cows, pigs, and chickens because, well, bacon. Well, he didn't say that, but he does exactly the same thing and it's just as hypocritical as the people he's attacking. But he's doing exactly the same thing they are. The line is just in a different spot for him.
Not only will he not kill the turtle, he's going to be a militant, vocal defender of gorillas. He said, I will use force to prevent people from hunting gorillas. So either he's a moral subjectivist or just inconsistent.
He's inconsistent, and I hope he takes me up on the offer to be on the show, because I certainly would like to have an argument, a philosophical argument and discussion with him about it. So, but I do appreciate it. I can't get to my other computer now, so I'm gonna need you to drop off Skype.
Okay.
All right.
So talk to you soon.
Yeah, appreciate it. Shalom. Real quick, I know you've been patient, and I'll go a little bit over today to compensate for that. For those people who want to consistently say, how does this help me in court? We're talking about addressing bad arguments and how to counter-argue that, how to show that an argument is trash, how an argument is flawed, and how to counter-argue or show and have a better argument. So it doesn't matter if we're talking about veganism. We're talking about particular ways people argue and calling them out on their BS. So one example is Larken ranting that vegans, some, don't actually believe what they say when they say that because they draw an arbitrary line, because they'll swerve for the dog and go and hit an ant. He does exactly the same thing. So it's being able to recognize, even in someone we like, who's an anarchist like Larken Rose, there's no ire against him. It's just, I think his arguments suck as far as veganism, but there's no ire there. It's not a personal thing. It's just arguments that suck, not him. And it's being able to recognize BS when you're hearing it. And you can get BS from, an anarchist, and even a very well-known anarchist like Larken Rose. He's not immune to that any more than I am. I can make a bad argument too. So we're sharpening our minds here so that we can recognize a BS argument regardless of who is giving it. So in our context, some people may give Larken the benefit of the doubt because he's an anarchist. And it's the same thing when you get to court. People are going to give the lawyers the benefit of the doubt because we're not lawyers, or I'm not a lawyer. Well, why should I? So you need to be able to set aside who they are and look at the actual merits of the argument that they're raising so that you can call foul or not. And if they do have a valid argument, it sharpens our skills so that we can counter-argue that. So that's how it applies in court. If you don't like that I discuss veganism, it's not going to make a big difference if you don't listen to these shows or never listen to the show again. I'm not preaching to a large audience now or anytime in the near future. So I'm going to discuss principles that are important to me. If people have a problem with that, go find a populist anarchist. There's plenty of them out there, and you could donate your money and continue making them money. You could donate to people who are already Bitcoin millionaires that can peddle bad arguments couched as philosophy if that's what you want. But I want to talk about important principles, and that's how, and I can draw that connection to why it's important if we are being attacked in court. Recognize a bad argument, because most of the people that I'm working with still can't do that, which is why we do the role playing. I'm sorry. No, actually, I've never done this show so that I can brag about having the biggest show on the internet. I know the proof is in the pudding. I've had a consistent, logical message, and I have tons of evidence to back up my position. So it doesn't matter to me that I don't have the largest internet show. I don't care. That's not why I started doing the show. It's to help people, and that's what we do. So if you want a top-rated show that's going to pander, you're never going to get that here, because that's not what I do. But what we do is take calls if you want to, and I'm not going to give out the number anymore, but we do help people with court and how to sharpen their argumentation skills, and understand logic and make objections properly to adequately or effectively defend yourself, which I'll talk about my tax call. Oh, this is a good one. After the, I'll wrap up the show with that tax call as an example of why we discuss such things on the show. But you've been very patient. I appreciate that. We have, I think it's Southern California, Riverside, but we have area code 951. You're live on the No State Project.
Yeah.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Mark, I'm bumming it again.
Oh, what can I do for you today?
Well, a couple of things. Get a Patreon account so people can put in $1 a month on you. I mean, if you had 12,000 people subscribing and they were all giving you $1 a month, you wouldn't be stressing.
There's a tax implication on that, and that's why I don't do it. So if somebody wants to do that, they can ask me. I can set up a recurring thing on PayPal. But you see, what makes my skin crawl, especially when someone is a damn millionaire, is to constantly tell people and guilt them into supporting the show.
Giving them money.
If I ever got on this show and I said, if you do not support this show, you will set human liberty back 2,000 years, people would laugh at me and never tune in again. People wouldn't start donating to me. But those are the things that make my skin crawl. I don't do that, and I won't do that. I ask and tell people yes, I occasionally, I will say I do appreciate the support. Most people who do support the show, the few that do, are not doing it because I say that on the show. Most of the people that have consistently supported the show have been doing so on a regular basis before I ever mentioned on the show to help support the show. So I would say there's maybe 3 people in 5 years that have ever responded to me on the show asking for support.
Yeah. Well, you do great work, and really it's just more evidence to my argument that money has nothing to do with deserve, no matter how hard you work.
Yeah. You see, this is maybe why some people complain. I have never made claims, such lofty claims on this show, that about my mind being the grandest reaches of human thought, and that the freedom of the human race would be set back hundreds, if not thousands, of years without me. It's a matter of being principled. Some want to give them away and don't give a damn, and they'll get on the radio, they'll get on YouTube, or they'll go on Alex Jones, and they'll say whatever they need to do to get people to keep giving the money. And I'm not going to do that. And if that means that I can't continue doing the show, that's what it means. But I'm absolutely not going to pander and jump on the Trump train and be one of these alt-right guys and start talking about Africans being inferior, just so that I can say, look at my Patreon. I'm not a Bitcoin millionaire. That stuff is, all right, I'm going on too much about that. But I appreciate the sentiment, but that's why we can't do it. If somebody wants to support the show, they can go to my website and they can do that, and it is appreciated.
Yeah, as far as, my thing about the whole vegan thing is that I don't believe that eating has anything to do with morality. The way that they're doing the factory farming and things like that is absolutely horrible. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. Well, some people might, but those are probably the ones that are doing it. But, when you're out hunting, let's say, and there's not that much wilderness left, then, the animals have the option of having just a horrible death where it may be that they get eaten alive by a predator,
Okay.
or that they starve to death.
Okay.
And in that sense, if you kill an animal quickly with a good shot to the heart or lungs, then you are reducing suffering overall. But I just, when you get into morality about eating, I have a hard time with that.
You mentioned.
I don't see it. I think
you mentioned about a
desire to be sanctimonious.
Is factory farming,
Go ahead.
is the treatment of animals in factories that you find horrible? Why do you find that horrible?
Well, because they're manipulating the animal's lifetime. They're feeding them. I mean, that's what caused mad cow disease. That's what caused E. coli to morph into what it is now. It was, they're feeding them corn and things like that they're not supposed to be. They naturally wouldn't be eating. They keep trying to get them to gain weight in any way possible.
But is it wrong? Is it wrong?
Lock them in pins,
I'm running out of time. Is it wrong to mistreat and be cruel to animals?
Yes.
Then doesn't it naturally and logically follow that it's wrong to end their life when they want to live?
Who knows? Maybe they don't want to live.
Come on. No, don't. No, stop. Don't be disingenuous with me. Come on. If it's wrong to be...
No, I'm not being disingenuous.
Who knows? I'm asking you.
Well, I don't know if they... I mean, if they're going ahead and
hold
put
on.
them in a pen for most of their lives.
Hold on a second. I got to... All right, let me speak. Hold on a second there, Home. You agree that it's wrong to be cruel to them. You agree to that. I'm going based on your prior statement and what you believe. That's why I'm asking you that. And now, since you believe it's wrong to be cruel to them, doesn't it naturally follow that it's cruel to end their life when...
No.
Well, then you're just logically...
No, I wouldn't say
then you're logically
not necessarily
inconsistent.
cruel to end an animal's life, or for that matter, any a plant's life either.
We're not talking about plants, though. Wait.
There's more and more evidence that that's coming in.
Oh, but there's still moral value where just as a human has more moral value than an animal. So we still have that. And we have to eat plants or okay, but it's disingenuous to not answer, because it is, whether you want to admit it or not, if you believe that it's cruel to hurt an animal and that cruelty is wrong, then death is the ultimate cruelty you can inflict on somebody. And Larken makes the ridiculous claim that there is zero, there is no cruelty in hunting. Let me explain something. I have never gone hunting to shoot, but I have been stuck with people that went and did some hunting. I can tell you from personal first-hand experience, Larken is absolutely dead effing wrong when he says there's no cruelty in hunting. You can say, well, if I have a headshot and it does the trick. That's not the way it works, though. A lot of times it is not instantaneous death. I have personally seen coyotes, for example, twisting because someone did not hit the heart or get a headshot. Okay? But I've got some other calls I want to get to, and I'm getting low on time. I want to see one more time if you could be consistent here, because I think it's disingenuous. You believe cruelty is wrong. Being cruel to an animal is wrong, but you don't think it's cruel to end an animal's life that wants to live.
I'd say cruelty is wrong.
So does it follow that, is it cruel to end an animal's life that wants to live?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd say that it's cruel to end an animal's life that wants to live.
So killing an
now,
animal.
If you can prove that it wants to live, that's something else. I mean, I don't think that the human race is the only one that gets suicidal.
No, you can prove the animal wants to live. The way they kick and scream and fight to save their lives. If you look at the footage of these slaughterhouses, you can tell they want to live. When you see these Muslims with the halal or whatever it's called, and they hold a sheep down after they cut the animal's throat, they go crazy. They want to live. There is, even the guy Jake that was on the show last week admitted it's observable. It's not up for dispute. Animals like us seek their own self-preservation. Yes, some humans, because of mental problems, seek their own death. True. But animals want to live. So now that we're on the same page and you're being consistent, isn't it then wrong and cruel to then kill and eat animals that want to live?
No more crueler than, killing plants that want to live. I mean, I don't think there's a plant that...
Oh my gosh! Do you realize that if you want to go down that road,
I don't think there's a good choice in any of the matters.
Okay,
I don't think
I can accept that, but let me jump in because I'm running out of time. Okay. I want to address your claim. You realize you don't have to kill a tree to enjoy its fruit. You don't have to kill a plant. In fact, potatoes, for example, the plant is going to die, and that's the natural life cycle. Whether you eat that potato or not, the plant is going to die. And so you don't have to kill the plant. You have choices. So, and you can meet all your nutritional needs without killing animals and eating them. Okay, you see so for those from last week, you notice I have a more accurate question or principle there. So what do you say to that when you do have a choice? You don't have to kill the plant in order to eat their fruit and vegetables.
Yeah, I was just trimming back trees that, have fruit on them, and you don't have to kill them all. It's not the case with all plants. When you eat them, sometimes you're eating the roots.
Yeah, but, sometimes you do.
Yeah, I think that it's just, I don't think that it's necessarily a moral. I don't think that there's any karma in eating. I don't necessarily think that it's a moral issue.
We've already... All right, so is being cruel to an animal immoral?
Being cruel to an animal is immoral. Okay. Killing an animal that doesn't want to die or wants to live is cruelty. And
okay.
It's not necessarily right.
Is it right or is it wrong? Is it wrong to take the... We've already covered this. You just have to confirm. You already agree that it's cruel and that it's just a matter of, do you believe that the cruelty of killing them also qualifies as wrong and immoral? That's the only sticking point right now.
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly.
Well, you've already... I think you do, but I'm totally out of time.
I don't want to, Sorry.
Well, I am out of time, and I do apologize for that. I want to wrap up with the tax issue, so maybe people won't be upset about the total content of the show. But we are going to be doing the role-playing tomorrow at the same time as this show aired, 3 to 4 Pacific Standard Time, so you're more than welcome to call in. There will be no discussion other than court procedure. Okay. You have my promise on that, all right?
That's what we live for, man. Going to court.
All right, well, we'll discuss that tomorrow. I appreciate the call.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. All right, we're just being consistent there. So there you saw it's cruel and immoral to be cruel, to hurt and be cruel to animals or torture them. And so since killing an animal that wants to live is the ultimate cruelty, it follows that that's immoral also. So another thing I'm going to go over a little bit here. I promise that I'm going to have an entire video on this. This is too good. I had one of the greatest examples of how devastatingly effective the Socratic method is and how simple it is to completely annihilate somebody's argument. Talk to a tax agent today. And very simply, you know how I do things. I always recommend the Socratic method. Somebody's making a claim. You got to know what the claim is. Don't do a straw man. Get their claim straight. So get an agreement that repeat back to them what their argument is. So with Larken Rose, for example, it's not unethical to kill an animal and eat it, even though you have a choice to meet all your nutrition without killing that animal. So needless killing is moral to Larken and people like, me. So I have the argument right. That's your starting point. If you don't have the other person's argument right, you can't have an effective Socratic dialogue with them because you're not going to be attacking their actual argument. Knowing that politicians are notorious for saying you're taking me out of context or I didn't say that, make damn sure when you're in or out of court or you're just talking and having a discussion with somebody about anarchy or statism, make sure you have their actual argument 100% accurate. So you say it back to them. So I did that. And this has to do with taxes. It's a property tax issue. And this is the assessor. And again, I got all the audio on this. After I had no time before the show to edit it for the show, but it's going to get its own video. It's this good. And remember, people are looking at government, especially assessors or they're looking at lawyers and judges and government employees. They are the authority. They know what they're talking about. They're the ones that are making these decisions. They're the ones who are given the public trust. I know, that's funny. But they're the ones who are given credibility. I am not coming into this with credibility, nor do I actually need it. I just need to have the basic principles of logic down to be able to see whether her argument holds weight or not, whether her claim is true or not. She agreed that if the property is physically in Arizona, the laws apply and they have jurisdiction to assess and require a tax. That was her claim. And she doubled down and tripled down on it. So the first time I had asked her, well, do you have any actual evidence, any facts that would prove your claim is true, that just because the property is physically in Arizona, that your Constitution applies? And just like in that California case, which was successful, but I don't have any proof, she immediately went to, I am not comfortable discussing this. I want my lawyer here. Now, I always recommend that everything they're saying is a lie. You want to know why? Why is a woman who is just absolutely certain as she is, that there's a God or that government is good, why, when she's asked to prove that her belief is true, she needs an attorney? Is it because the attorney is more qualified to answer, that she's not qualified to do what she just said, what she was just insisting? Is she not qualified? Is it she thinks that maybe she's committed some kind of, crime, and she wants her lawyer to protect her from maybe incriminating herself? So you ask them. I don't want to speculate. I ask. But you ask a lead-in question. Why do you need to have your attorney be here and answer? Are you not qualified to make these claims against my client? We're done here. We're done. So I didn't want them to end the call. So I give them the lot number. And I go right back into it. She tripled down. I think it was triple. Anyway, she definitely insisted again. That property is in Arizona. The laws apply, and we have jurisdiction. I have the authority to do an assessment. Do you have any facts to back up that claim? She hung up on me. Now, I don't care what people want to say, that I'm a douche, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a this. Nobody can listen to this call and say that this woman was exercising even a little bit of good faith. You do not just hang up on somebody. You don't make a claim, have someone ask you to prove it, and then just hang the phone up and then be able to argue you're acting in good faith. No. Bull. It's just like on Facebook. What's your argument? What is your rational argument for X, since you're getting on and posting about this every day? What is your rational argument? And you just don't hear nothing. Nothing. Just run away. And I do want to mention that the California one, this is important. I can't post this because I don't have any actual documentary proof. But a similar thing happened in California last year, where they wanted property tax for the 2017 tax year. And I went through the same process, and the county assessor did not want to speak to me without his attorney present. He was supposed to set up he wasn't going to escalate it until we had an opportunity to have a conference call so that he could answer questions with counsel. He never set that up, and for weeks I followed up. They never escalated it. There was no lien. They never sent another bill for 2017. But like clockwork, because it's all on the computer, he got a bill for 2018. So they never billed him again for 2017. Now, I would say that was a success. I can't actually prove it without getting the documentation from the county, and I'm not going to have the guy do that because I really don't need to do that. The phone call you'll hear from Arizona, that I did today, that's some pretty hardcore evidence of a couple of things. One, they make claims they can't support, and you can get and what are they going to do? But I know a lawyer on the internet who'll disagree with you, Mark. Is that going to hold up in a tax assessment charge? Okay. Doesn't matter what someone's saying on a YouTube video. This is, I'm actually speaking to an agent that you may be attacked by. And so this is all evidence, like I mentioned before, of how devastatingly simple and effective the Socratic method is. And it also shows how flimsy these charges are, how flimsy their arguments and claims are. As someone who's described as a nitwit can destroy your claim. Now, let's just say, for sake of argument, I'm a nitwit. Should I be able to destroy such a claim so easily by the honorable tax assessors? If somebody has evidence to support their claim and they have a rational argument, they'll just give it to you. And those who don't, those who make excuses, those who constantly say, what do you mean by this? They don't have a rational argument, or they don't have a rational counter argument. And they may have a bigger audience than my show. That doesn't mean anything. That's no bearing. But he's more popular. If he has the largest podcast in the world. That doesn't mean his arguments are any good. All right, I do appreciate everyone calling in and participating today. I am going to do the role playing tomorrow if enough people do get back to me on Frank Rizzo 3. That's Frank Rizzo 3 on Skype. So if we have enough, we will be doing a role-playing session, just court procedure tomorrow, 3 to 4 Pacific time, here on my YouTube channel. And I will be live Saturday, back here live Saturday again, too. So until then, salud.